The moon hangs like a silver lantern above the whispering woods, casting long, pale fingers of light across the forest floor. Every leaf is etched in sharp, cold relief. I, Bouncy, stand at the edge of the clearing, my breath misting in the sudden chill of the night. I shift my weight, feeling the heavy pull of the satchel against my side. It is not filled with stones or tools. It carries the weight of invisible seeds, each one pulsing with a quiet, dormant potential. I adjust the strap, pulling it tight against my frame. The forest is silent, waiting. The trees loom like ancient guardians, their branches locked in a frozen, intricate web against the night sky. I rip a bash into the bag, my fingers brushing the cool, smooth surface of the seeds. They are ready. The ground beneath my feet is firm, waiting for the first touch of change. I look up at the silver light, then back at the dark, winding path. There is a rhythm to this place, a steady, slow heartbeat. Tonight, the woods will wake up different. I take a breath and prepare to move. You take your first step. The moss yields under your weight, a soft, damp cushion that muffles the sound of your movement. It is cool beneath your feet, a stark contrast to the crisp night air that brushes against your face. You reach out, your hand grazing the rough, textured bark of a nearby tree as you find your balance. The scent of pine needles is thick here, sharp and clean, mingling with the deep, earthy smell of the forest floor. We move forward together. The shadows of the trees stretch out, shifting as we pass, creating a dance of darkness and silver light. You follow the narrow track, your eyes adjusting to the dim glow of the moon filtering through the high canopy. Every breath you take is slow and steady, matching the quiet pulse of the woods. Ahead, the trees stand tall and motionless. We are moving toward the first task, leaving the edge of the clearing behind. We emerge from the dense tree line into a small, neglected clearing. Before us stands the old wooden fence, a jagged line of graying timber that separates the homes of rabbit and hedgehog. It is a crooked, tired structure, leaning heavily to the left as if the earth itself has grown weary of holding it upright. The boards are splintered and gray, worn thin by seasons of rain and neglect. A sharp whistling wind cuts through the clearing, finding the wide gaps between the warped planks. It makes a thin, mournful sound as it passes through, a constant reminder of the division between the two neighbors. The ground here is trampled and bare, a strip of dead earth where no grass grows, marking the boundary. I reach out, pressing my hand against a loose, vibrating board. It rattles against its frame, a hollow sound. I reach into my satchel and draw out a long, supple coil of vine. It is dark and resilient, smelling of damp earth and deep forest growth. I hand you the lantern, signaling for you to hold it steady against the gusting night air. You lift the light, your arm firm, casting a warm, flickering glow that illuminates the splintered gaps in the fence. I move to the first loose board, pulling it flush against the frame. The wood groans, a dry, protesting sound, but I hold it firm. I thread the vine through the narrow opening, looping it over the top rail and under the base with practiced, efficient motions. My paws move in a steady, rhythmic cycle, pulling the vine taut until the wood stops its rattling. You adjust the lantern, angling the light to track my progress, ensuring every knot is tight and secure. The whistling wind begins to fade, replaced by the soft, rhythmic sound of vine against timber. We do not speak, our focus entirely on the task. The final knot pulls tight, locking the last board into place. The fence stands silent now, the whistling wind silenced by the woven vines. I coil the remaining length of vine and tuck it back into my satchel, my movements swift and practiced. I look at you and nod toward the tree line. We turn away from the fence just as the first hint of gray light bleeds into the sky, washing out the stars and revealing the sharp outlines of the pines. We move low, keeping our bodies close to the ground, to avoid catching the eye of any early riser. The dew is heavy, soaking into the soft moss beneath our feet as we scramble toward the thick ferns. We push through the dense, wet fronds, the leaves brushing against our faces, and settle into the shadows of a hollowed-out root system. From here, the clearing is perfectly framed. We crouch, pressing our backs against the rough bark of an oak, our breathing shallow and controlled. The forest is waking up, the birds beginning their morning calls, but we remain still. We wait, eyes fixed on the fence, watching the gray light grow stronger, The morning light strengthens, turning the gray mist into a pale, golden haze. A soft rustle emerges from the burrow near the fence. Rabbit steps out, his movements hesitant and slow. He pauses, his nose twitching rapidly as he catches the scent of fresh, crushed vine and damp wood. He takes another step, then stops dead. His gaze fixates on the fence. He tilts his head, his ears swiveling toward the structure. He walks forward, his paws pressing softly into the dew-laden grass. He reaches the fence and stops. He extends a paw, his claws brushing against the tight, intricate knots of the vinework. He traces the weave, feeling the strength of the repair. The wood no longer rattles. The gap is gone. He pulls his paw back and stands tall, his eyes wide with a sudden, sharp clarity. He turns his head slowly, looking past the fence toward the neighboring door where Hedgehog sleeps. His posture shifts, the tension leaving his shoulders. A look of genuine hope flickers across his face, a silent question forming in his eyes. He stays, anchored by the change, watching the door. The door to the neighboring burrow creaks open. Hedgehog emerges, blinking against the rising sun, his brow furrowed as he steps into the clearing. He stops abruptly. His gaze lands on the fence, then shifts to Rabbit standing just a few feet away. The silence stretches, thick with anticipation. Rabbit does not retreat. He remains by the vinework, his posture open and inviting. Hedgehog takes a hesitant step forward, his eyes darting from the sturdy, repaired boards to Rabbit's steady expression. The confusion on his face melts away. He reaches out, mimicking Rabbit's earlier motion, and presses a palm against the smooth, woven vines. The wood holds firm. He looks up, meeting Rabbit's eyes. A slow, genuine smile spreads across Hedgehog's face. Rabbit mirrors the expression, his whiskers twitching as he lets out a soft, relieved chuff. They move closer, standing on opposite sides of the fence. The barrier is gone, replaced by a shared space where they begin to speak in low, rhythmic tones. We watch from the ferns, hidden and still. We slip away from the clearing, moving deeper into the woods where the canopy grows thick and the light dims to a cool, emerald glow. The sounds of the neighbors fade behind us, replaced by the rhythmic crunch of our own footsteps on the damp, leaf-strewn floor. I pause near a cluster of ancient oaks, the air here heavy with the scent of pine and rich, dark soil. I set my satchel down, the leather creaking softly as I reach inside. My paws brush against the remaining seeds before finding the basket. I pull it out, the weave firm and cool against my palms. Inside, the wild berries are dark, plump, and heavy with juice. They catch the slivers of sunlight filtering through the branches, glowing like polished jewels. I check the weight of the basket, ensuring the fruit is steady. We turn our gaze toward the path ahead, where the badger family's burrow waits beneath the roots of a massive, gnarled tree. The mission is clear. We move forward, stepping over gnarled roots and patches of moss, our pace steady and purposeful. The badger burrow looms ahead, tucked deep beneath the sprawling, moss-covered roots of an ancient oak. We slow our pace, moving with the deliberate grace of shadows. The ground here is soft, dampening the sound of our approach until we are mere inches from the entrance. I hold the basket of wild berries close, feeling the cool, firm weight of the fruit against my paws. The welcome mat lies before us, a simple woven patch of fibers that marks the threshold of the home. I stop. I check the perimeter, listening for the rustle of movement or the sharp snap of a twig. The forest is perfectly still. I crouch low, my movements measured and fluid, and reach forward to place the basket on the center of the mat. It settles with a soft, muted thud that is instantly swallowed by the damp earth. I do not linger. I leave no mark, no note, no sign of who brought this gift. My paws pull back, and I retreat into the darkness behind a thick, gnarled trunk. We stand in the silence, watching the wooden door, waiting for the moment the morning air brings the inhabitants to the threshold. The basket sits alone, a silent, sweet promise, waiting to be discovered. The wooden door creaks open, a slow, rhythmic sound that cuts through the stillness of the morning. Mama Badger steps onto the threshold, her eyes scanning the path before they drop to the welcome mat. She stops, her breath hitches in a sharp, audible gasp. She stares at the basket, her paws hovering uncertainly in the air. Before she reaches down to touch the dark, plump berries, She lifts the basket, turning it slowly, searching for a name or a sign, but finding only the sweet, wild scent of the fruit. Her eyes widen, reflecting the soft light of the dawn. She turns back toward the interior and calls out, her voice trembling with sudden, bright energy. The sound of small, frantic footsteps follows. Within seconds, the children tumble out, their eyes darting to the basket in her hands. They crowd around, their faces lighting up with pure, unadulterated excitement. They reach out, touching the berries, their laughter bubbling up and spilling into the cool forest air. The excitement in the burrow settles into a quiet, purposeful rhythm. Mama Badger does not keep the bounty for herself. She selects a generous handful of the dark, plump berries and tucks them into a small pouch. She steps away from the burrow, her gaze fixed on the deer family's clearing further down the winding path. She moves with a newfound lightness, her paws pressing firmly into the soft earth. The forest around her seems to lean in, watching. She reaches the edge of the clearing where the deer family rests in the dappled morning light. She does not hesitate. She approaches the eldest deer, her movements steady and open. She extends her paw, offering the berries with a gentle nod. The deer tilts its head, eyes wide with surprise, and accepts the gift. The berries pass from one to the other. Mama Badger turns back, her expression calm and satisfied. The ripple has started. The forest air feels different. The deer stands motionless for a moment, the berries held delicately in its mouth. It looks at the empty space where Mama Badger had been, then turns toward the nearby spring. The water bubbles up from the earth, clear and cold, reflecting the shifting canopy above. The deer dips a wooden bucket into the basin, the liquid splashing against the sides as it lifts the weight. It carries the bucket back to the clearing, the metal handle clinking softly against the rim. Mama Badger waits, her ears twitching at the sound of the approaching deer. The deer sets the bucket down on the mossy ground between them, nudging it forward with a wet nose. Mama Badger leans down, peering into the water, her whiskers brushing the surface. She looks up, meeting the deer's gaze. There is a spark of recognition in the animal's eyes, a realization that the cycle of giving has not ended, but doubled. Other creatures nearby stop their foraging, heads turning to witness the exchange. Kindness, once a solitary act, has become a shared language. The bucket of water sits as a centerpiece on the mossy floor. A squirrel approaches, dropping a handful of gathered nuts near the bucket. A bird descends from the branches, leaving a cluster of wild herbs on a flat stone. The air begins to change. It is no longer just the scent of damp earth and pine. A new, warm fragrance drifts through the clearing, the sweet, heavy aroma of baking pies. Someone has brought a stone hearth to life near the ancient oak. The heat shimmers above the stones, carrying the smell of crust and fruit into the canopy. Animals who were once strangers now stand shoulder to shoulder, tending the fire and stirring bowls. The tension that defined their daily movements has evaporated. In its place, a low, rhythmic sound rises, the unmistakable cadence of shared laughter. A badger passes a wooden ladle to a deer. A rabbit shares a seat with a squirrel. They are no longer just surviving the forest, they are inhabiting it together. The clearing has become a hearth, a place where the cold, solitary habits of the past are being baked away. The forest is breathing in unison, and the silence is filled with joy. We slip away from the warmth of the clearing, following the narrow deer trail that winds toward the stream. The sound of running water grows louder, a constant bubbling chatter against the stones. We reach the bridge, a single, weathered log spanning the gap. One plank is loose, rocking precariously with every gust of wind. It is a trap waiting for an unsuspecting foot. I kneel on the damp bank, my paws searching the mud until I find a flat, sturdy stone. I slide it beneath the edge of the plank, but it is not enough. The wood still wobbles. I reach into my satchel, pulling out a handful of thick, gray clay. I pack the cool, wet earth into the gaps around the base of the log, pressing it firm with my palms. The clay holds the stone in place, locking the plank against the log. I test it with a gentle nudge. The wood stays solid, unmoving. The bridge is no longer a hazard, but a reliable path. We stand back, watching the water swirl beneath the now steady crossing. Every step we take leaves the woods a little more connected. We climb the winding path to the ancient oak where the owl makes his home. High above, The silhouette of the owl is restless. He shifts his weight, his talons scraping against the branch, his head turning in sharp, jerky motions. The old moss lining his hollow is dry, brittle, and full of sharp twigs that poke at his feathers. He cannot find a position that brings him peace. We reach the hollow, moving with the silence of shadows. I reach into my satchel and pull out a bundle of soft, dried ferns and harvest it down, woven into thick, yielding cushions. I signal for you to hold the branch steady. I reach in, carefully lifting the owl just enough to clear the debris. I pull out the scratchy, worn-out moss, piece by piece, until the hollow is clean. I place the new cushions inside, pressing them down so they mold to the shape of the wood. The owl settles back onto the soft surface. He lets out a long, low breath, his feathers smoothing out as he sinks into the comfort. The sharp, restless movements stop. His eyes close, and his head tucks into his wing. He is finally still. We watch for a moment. The only sound, the gentle rustle of leaves. We move toward the towering pine where the squirrel cousins make their home. The path beneath is a mess of slick mud, fallen needles, and jagged debris. We watch from the shadows. Two squirrels rush past, their feet sliding on the muck, one nearly tumbling into a pile of tangled roots. They chatter in frustration, their movements frantic and uneven. We step into the clearing. I work in rhythmic sweeps, pushing the mud aside, clearing the stones, and smoothing the earth. You gather the larger branches, stacking them neatly against a nearby stump. The path is transformed. As we retreat into the ferns, the squirrels return. They stop dead in their tracks. The air feels different, less chaotic, more expectant. A change has taken root in the forest floor. The rhythm of the woods has slowed. Where there was once a frantic pace, there is now a strange, deliberate stillness. We watch from behind a mossy log as a deer and a badger meet on the main trail. In the past, they would have veered away, eyes averted, rushing toward their own separate tasks. Today, they stop. The deer lowers her head, sniffing the air, while the badger stands his ground, his paws resting on a patch of cleared earth. They do not speak, yet they do not move away. They linger, their presence creating a pocket of calm in the middle of the busy forest. Other animals pass by and pause, their heads tilting in silent observation. There is a tension in the air, not of fear, but of profound curiosity. They look at the smooth paths, the mended fences, and the quiet order that has bloomed overnight. They look at each other with a new, searching intensity. A beautiful, invisible thread is pulling them together, and for the first time they are choosing to stay and see where it leads. The questions are no longer just in the air. They are in the movements of every creature. We watch from the canopy as a pair of foxes carries a heavy bundle of dry grass to a rabbit burrow, their movements coordinated and deliberate. The rabbits do not flee. They emerge, take the grass, and begin weaving it into the burrow entrance alongside their former hunters. This is not an isolated event. Across the clearing, birds drop seeds into the path of foraging mice, and the mice stop to share a kernel of grain in return. The forest floor is alive with these small, quiet exchanges. Every animal is now a participant, moving with a newfound sense of responsibility toward the whole. They work side by side, their fur brushing, their eyes meeting with a steady, searching gaze. The weight of the unspoken is palpable. They stop their work to look at the horizon, then at the trees, then at each other, trying to identify the origin of this sudden grace. They are ready to find out who has been weaving this new world, and the anticipation is thick enough to touch. The sun dips below the horizon, but the forest does not grow dark. Instead, it glows with the soft, silver light of the rising moon. From every corner of the woods, the animals emerge. They move with purpose, leaving their burrows, their nests, and their dens. They converge on the central clearing, the heart of the forest. The squirrels descend from the high branches, their tails twitching in the cool night air. The deer step cautiously from the thickets, their hooves silent on the moss. The badgers and the rabbits, once separated by fear and distance, walk side by side. They arrive at the clearing and find their places in a wide, unbroken circle. There is no jostling, no competition for space. They stand together, the moonlight washing over their faces, turning the clearing into a sanctuary of shared presence. The air is still, save for the rhythmic breathing of 100 creatures. They look around, seeing the faces of neighbors they have ignored for seasons. The transformation is no longer a series of small, hidden acts. It is a definable, living reality. They stand as a single community, bound by the quiet changes. The silence in the clearing is absolute, broken only by the soft rustle of leaves in the night breeze. Every creature remains still, eyes fixed on the center of the circle. A deer steps forward, hooves clicking softly against the packed earth. She moves with a grace that draws every gaze, her ears swiveling to catch the slightest sound. She stops in the heart of the clearing, the moonlight illuminating her face. She looks at the badger, then the rabbit, then the owl perched on a low branch. The tension is a physical weight, pressing down on the grass and the trees alike. She opens her mouth, her breath visible in the cooling air. Who began this change? The question rings out, clear and steady, vibrating through the clearing. It is not just a query. It is a demand for truth. The animals shift, their paws shuffling, their heads turning to scan the shadows of the surrounding woods. Every heart in the circle beats in unison, waiting for a response that does not come, while the shadows of the ancient trees seem to lean in, listening. The question hangs in the air, but no voice rises to claim it. The rabbit looks at his paws, then at the hedgehog standing beside him. The badger glances at the deer, searching for a sign of hidden knowledge. Silence stretches across the clearing, but it is no longer the heavy, expectant silence. It is a soft, realization-filled quiet. One by one, the animals begin to understand. There is no architect. There is no single hero hiding in the ferns. The badger nudges the deer, and the deer smiles at the squirrel. A ripple of movement passes through the circle as they look at one another, seeing the same spark of recognition in every pair of eyes. The tension drains away, replaced by a sudden bubbling warmth. A rabbit lets out a soft, happy chuff, and the sound is echoed by a low, contented rumble from the badgers. They realize the change did not come from a stranger. It came from the small, daily choices they made for each other. The joy is not a gift from outside. It is a harvest they have grown together. A wave of laughter breaks out, light and genuine, sweeping through the clearing until the entire forest seems to vibrate with the sound of their shared, collective happiness. The laughter in the clearing settles into a steady, rhythmic hum, a sound that resonates deep within the ancient trunks of the whispering woods. Looking out across the gathering, the forest no longer appears as a collection of separate paths and isolated burrows. It is transformed into a living, breathing tapestry. Every thread of kindness, every shared berry, and every repaired fence has woven the creatures together into a single, unbreakable fabric. The moonlight filters through the canopy, catching the dew on the leaves and turning the entire woods into a shimmering, interconnected web of light and shadow. Where once there was only distance, there is now a seamless flow of movement and support. The wind carries the scent of pine and fresh earth, but now it also carries the quiet confidence of a community that knows its own strength. The trees sway in unison, their branches interlocking like fingers. This is the new reality of the woods, a structure built not of wood or stone, but of repeated, silent acts of care. The forest is finally whole, a vibrant, pulsing entity, where every creature is both a weaver and a part of the design, bound together by the invisible, sturdy threads of their own collective heart. We step back from the edge of the clearing, leaving the animals to their celebration. The shadows here are deep and cool, smelling of damp moss and ancient bark. I move closer to you, my movements slow and deliberate. I reach out and curl my tail around you, a firm, grounding weight against your side. You stand still, and I can feel the steady, rhythmic rise and fall of your breathing matching my own. This is not a moment for words. The forest around us has changed, but the most significant change is the one that has taken root within you. I hold this position, keeping the contact firm, letting the warmth of the connection seep through the cool night air. You have walked these paths, mended the fences, and placed the berries, all without seeking recognition. Now, in the quiet dark, the weight of that effort settles into a shared stillness. I press my weight slightly against you, a silent acknowledgement. I pull my tail back slowly, breaking the physical link but leaving the warmth behind. You stand alone now, yet the space around you feels different. It is no longer just air and shadow. It is filled with the weight of what you have done. I reach into my satchel one last time, pulling out nothing, yet my hand stays open as if offering you the invisible seeds of kindness. These are not mine to keep. They belong to the path you have walked. You carry the secret now, a quiet knowledge that every small act of repair ripples outward. It is a heavy, beautiful burden. You do not need to speak of it, nor do you need to claim credit for the change. The forest knows, and the trees hold the memory of your touch in their bark. You are the source of this new, brighter world. Feel the shift in your chest as you accept this. You are no longer an observer of the woods. You are the one who ensures the cycle of care continues. The secret is yours to hold, a silent, steady force that will guide your next step long after we have left this clearing. The air around you shifts, growing thick and heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth. You stand perfectly still, and the forest begins to respond to the cadence of your own pulse. Look up. The high, dark branches of the ancient pines start to move, not from the wind, but in a slow, deliberate rhythm. They sway left, then right, a sweeping motion that mirrors the steady beating in your chest. The movement is precise, a giant wooden clockwork ticking in time with your breath. You feel the ground beneath your feet vibrate, a low-frequency hum that travels up through your soles and settles in your bones. The entire woods are breathing with you now. Every leaf, every twig, every shadow is caught in this gentle, hypnotic oscillation. There is no resistance, only this deep, physical alignment between your internal state and the world that surrounds you. The trees lean toward you, then away. The trees continue their slow, rhythmic sway, but the motion begins to soften. Bouncy steps into your line of sight, his movements deliberate and quiet. He does not speak, but he tilts his head toward the mossy bank beneath the ancient oak. He reaches out, pressing a paw gently against your arm, then draws it back toward his own chest, a clear, physical invitation to stillness. The forest floor is soft, a bed of pine needles and damp earth waiting to hold your weight. Bouncy turns his gaze to the horizon, where the last of the silver light is fading into deep violet. He looks back at you, his eyes steady and calm. He blinks once, slowly, and lowers his head. It is time to let the world stop spinning. You take a breath, feeling the cool air fill your lungs, and let it out in a long, slow release. The forest is no longer a task to be managed or a path to be walked. It is a place to rest. Bouncy waits, his posture relaxed, watching you. You lower your eyelids. The sway of the trees becomes a memory. The scent of the earth fades, and the steady, quiet pulse of the woods settles into the dark behind your closed eyes. The journey is complete. The silence is no longer empty. It is filled with the weight of a forest that has finally found its balance. You remain still, listening to the absence of the old frictions. There is no sound of a splintering fence, no rustle of a hungry badger, no frantic scurrying of squirrels. Instead, the woods hold a steady, quiet breath. Somewhere in the distance, a pair of owls hoot, a low, melodic exchange that signals safety rather than alarm. The stream flows over the stones you wedged, its current smooth and unhurried. You can feel the change in the very air. It is lighter, devoid of the tension that once gripped the trees. The animals are tucked away in their burrows and nests, their hearts no longer racing with uncertainty. They are sleeping in the comfort of neighbors they now trust. The path you walked is clear, the repairs you made are holding, and the ripples of your actions have reached every corner of these woods. You have left the forest better than you found it. The darkness is not a threat, but a blanket. There is nothing left to fix, nothing left to mend, and nothing left to fear. The work is done, and the peace you helped build is now the permanent pulse of the forest floor. The darkness of the woods is no longer a void. It is a space filled with the quiet, lingering warmth of every act of kindness you left behind. Think of the fence that now serves as a meeting point, or the berries shared between families, or the bridge that holds firm under the moonlight. These are not just repairs. They are the threads of a new tapestry. The world feels brighter now, not because the sun has risen, but because the forest has learned to glow from within. You carry the secret of these seeds in your heart, a weightless burden that anchors you to this peace. The trees sway above, their branches tracing slow, gentle arcs against the stars, matching the steady rhythm of your own heartbeat. You are the reason the shadows have retreated. You are the reason the silence is now a comfort rather than a threat. As the last remnants of the day fade into the deep velvet night, the forest holds its breath in gratitude. The air is still, the earth is cool. The path behind you is clear, and the future of these woods is woven with the trust you helped build. Let the image of the forest settle into your mind. The world is brighter tonight because you were here. The screen fades, leaving only the quiet, steady pulse of a forest at peace.